All right, so we kind of a cool video that's coming out from a fairly new creator in the space called University of Stanton. I mean, I just subscribed. It apparently is really good. We're going to take a look at it. All the comments are super positive about this video, and it's titled, "Are These the Best Guns in Star Citizen?" And I think that they kind of break down things for everybody. And yeah, I kind of want to check this out with you guys. It was suggested that I watch this from a Star Citizen dev, actually, because it helped them understand these things, because they don't interact with the ship systems as much. They interact with the mission systems, so they don't know this stuff. And yeah, it's kind of cool. So let's check it out together.
You've probably heard a lot of people talking about laser cannon meta recently, and for
University
good reason,
of Stanton is the channel. Actually, since they're new, I'll copy the video URL for everybody watching in Twitch chat, so you guys can get subscribed over there.
Is why. This guide is not here to tell you which weapons to use, but to break down exactly what the new categories of weapons are and what sets them apart now, so you can decide for yourself what fits your situation best. Welcome to University of
Best way to do a guide is to give the information and let players make their own decisions.
Stanton, class is in session.
Very pro already.
Star Citizen 3.23 is here, and the landscape has shifted completely when it comes to the balance of ship weapons. Between entirely new stats, increased ammo count on ballistics, and the fundamental changes to flight and aim in master modes, selecting your guns is, thankfully, no longer as simple as just use laser repeaters. Today we're going to be making extensive use of the Urkel.Games calculator and the
I gotta say, I was using some laser repeaters in Master Mode's Atmo and a Saber. They weren't as good as the other weapons, but they were super satisfying to use.
SC Ship's Performance Viewer. Please consider supporting these great tools and the incredible help they provide at understanding this ever-changing game. Links will be in the description below. To understand the new weapons, we're going to group them in the two ways that up front are the most important. The first is weapon size, and while we know this is important because it tells us where we can fit them, it's also tied.
I think category is the most important now. Like, like anti-ship or anti-fighter versus anti-capital or whatever. I think that has become a categorization that has become the thing to focus on more than anything, and that just happened with the Master Mode's implementation, because you have cannons and then you have their sizes, but you have anti-fighter cannons and anti-large ship cannons. Just let me watch the video, bro. I linked it to you. I'm watching the video too. I'm providing context. What is... I'll never understand that.
Later to how far you can shoot. Nearly all size 1 weapons have a range of about 2,000 meters. Size 2s will shoot 2,300.
It was literally
size 3s 2,600. Size 4s 3,000, and size 5s 3,300. Second, and even more important, is the weapon's projectile speed. You'll find, along with some other stats, that this is actually split up by manufacturer product line. For example,
interesting. Is it? Apocalypse Arms. Klaus and Warner's here and somewhere else. Kruger's here and somewhere else. Asperia's here and somewhere else.
For example, all of the CF- laser repeaters by Klaus and Werner share a projectile speed of 1,800 meters per second. By contrast, the Deadbolt ballistic cannons by Asperia all share a projectile speed of 900 meters a second, and so on.
Ah, okay. Gotcha. So no matter what the size is, they share the same speed.
If you tested Master Modes early on, one thing you no doubt remember is that the hodgepodge of stock weapons they came with usually resulted in having 2 lead pips to aim at. One closer to the target for the faster projectiles, and one farther away for the slower ones.
Yep.
Choosing projectile speed is important because you can simplify how your ship plays in combat by selecting weapons that have the same, or at least close, projectile speed. So you only have to aim at a single pip rather than having to shift between 2 or more. This is only an option, but it's worth considering, especially if you're new to the game. More on mixing and matching different weapons later in the video.
Yeah.
Each product line
I hear mixing and matching is actually valuable these days, but we'll see what he says.
performs differently in other regards too. If you were to sort this weapons list on Urkel.games by other stats like, say, fire rate, how rapidly the weapon fires, spread max, which is how much spread you get on your shots over distance when holding down the trigger, and so on, you would find each product line grouped up in the list again. Asperia's light strikes have the highest fire rate and projectile speed of any laser cannon, but the lowest damage per shot. Bearing's M series are the opposite, the lowest fire rate and projectile speed, but by far the highest damage per shot.
Do you think that's going to stay, or do you think that's a result of we have way too much work to do? Right? And we wanted to make it easier on ourselves. I'm curious about that one. I'm kind of okay if it stays this way. Like, doesn't matter what the size is, they're all going to kind of feel the same because it's the same type of gun. It is just this gun, but 3 different sizes should have similar characteristics. I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm not much of a ship combat guy. I'm really trying to get into it right now, and yeah, I wonder what direction they plan on going in the future. Yeah, projectile speed is the most important thing always, because the faster the projectile speed, the easier it is to be accurate.
Each manufacturer now has something of a personality that they put into the weapons they make, which is kind of cool. Each line offers a different combination of projectile speed, spread, damage per shot, fire rate, and one last important one on energy weapons that most people don't think to look at: regen cost per bullet.
Oh yeah.
This is how much power your ship's capacitor has to spend for each shot, and when we compare it to the damage of the shot, listed as alpha max, we start to find that some weapons make better use of the available energy than others. There's no stat on Urkel for this, so we'll calculate it ourselves and call it damage to energy cost ratio. As a side note, you can see how much capacitor energy your preferred ship has by looking here for regen pool size, or going to Urkel's ship list and finding the column capacitor crew load. Dividing this by the regen cost per bullet is how Urkel calculates how many ammos you'll have in each gun. It's worth noting here, and we'll mention it later, that the more energy weapons you have on your ship, the fewer shots each one will have, because the available capacitor energy is being shared between them.
Is it more energy weapons, or is it more energy weapons of the same type? This is something, I am watching this video for me. This is a part of the game where I do not engage, or have not engaged, but absolutely am right now. But you think it's any energy? Because it's part of the weapon capacity. Okay, cool. Because I feel like it was originally the old days. It was like each weapon had a pool or something like that. So, all right.
Remember that for later. If we were trying to pick, say, a size 3 weapon for our ship that's easy to hit with and will give us the most bang for our buck, we could land naturally on a few different conclusions. The Omnisky 9 takes 3/4 of an energy point to apply 1 point of damage. It's very high projectile speed of 1400 meters a second.
So they're accurate.
Many PvPers will remember was exactly the speed of the old laser repeaters. But alternatively, say if our targets will be very large and slow, could be M5A, which offers an extremely efficient 2-to-1 conversion on energy.
M5As, I'm going to move my camera, are absolutely insane. Like, ridiculous. What size weapons can go on the, oh my god, the Asperia Talon? Are they M7As or M6As? Something like that? They're the size 4. The M5As are size 3, right? They two-shot. They two-shot you. If you're accurate, like I went up against a guy in Arena Commander yesterday with a ship that I believe it or not, me of all people, were pretty dominant. Talon S size 3. Okay, so maybe he was using M5As. It was M something A, and I can't remember the number off the top of my head right now. It was like one shot shields down, one shot red nose, third shot dead. Every time. It was intense. It was intense, dude.
Half a point of energy to apply 1 point of damage, with extremely high alpha. We need to aim carefully and differently because we'll have limited shots and we'll travel slowly.
Not a shrike.
But when they hit, the damage will be unmatched for the amount of energy and time we've spent. The lower efficiency of the other weapons is a result of their increased fire rates combined with increased projectile speeds. You can shoot and spray much faster, landing some damage, but not as much as if you were accurate. Being accurate is always rewarded, but CIG chose with this weapon set to reward willingness to take a risk on slower, single shots than it did staying on target with a fast spraying weapon. Just like the energy weapons, ballistics come with a full range and variety of fire rate, alpha damage, and accuracy, and their categories, Gatlings, repeaters, and cannons, actually make a little more intuitive sense. Ballistics come with some pros and cons. There's a place for them when you need to target components, turrets, engine nacelles, and wings because they can hit through shields, but this...
So he's speaking in context of current, like obviously it's Master Mode's 323. I'm not sure what direction the game wants to go in, given what we're seeing in the engineering demo. They're like nerfing ballistics and making lasers damage the arm. Like it's so odd. Avenger One said accuracy is even more important than ever. Yeah, like you hitting shots more than the other player is what matters in 323. 100%. You being able to, the moment they move off your screen, being able to get your nose to target as fast as possible and get shooting again is the most important thing. 100%. Comstar and Roy, thank you very much, guys.
Comes at a cost. In 3.23, all shields have a 0 to 30% physical absorption, which is a semi-random number that's subtracted from your ballistic damage and taken out of the shield hit point pool. Whatever damage is left, minus that, is then reduced further by the hull's physical resistance, which is now...
That 0 to 30% is not random. It's 0% when you don't... I believe this is what it is. It's 0% when you don't have power to shields, and it's 30% when you have max power to shields. That's my understanding of those numbers.
And
everywhere in between is in between 0 and 30%.
At least a flat 50% on all ships. Shooting a target with ballistics means you will be doing less than half the damage, but sometimes this is worth it. And as we've seen in the Arena Commander engineering tests, there will be increased opportunity for this in the future. SC Ship's Performance Viewer can give you an awesome glance at some of the possibilities here. Select a ship, click on the Parts section under a ship's hull, and you'll see a list. Vital parts with the green icon will result in the soft death of the ship when destroyed, whereas breakable parts with the red icon will snap off. On this Vanguard, we can see that shooting off the left engine will deprive the ship of a number of thrusters that otherwise can't be attacked directly. Unfortunately, this doesn't show hit points for manned turrets, but these can in fact be attacked and disabled with a reasonable amount of direct damage. Ballistics also offer more consistent fire. Although they generate heat that has to be managed, this heat reduction happens way faster than the ship's capacitor can regenerate, which means you can be attacking with ballistics during times when energy weapons would have to recharge. The bad news is that you will still eventually run out. Ammo counts have been massively increased in 3.23 to a level that makes them viable in many more situations, but that bar is the time limit on your engagement. When it runs out in an all-ballistic build, your fight is over. One thing I like about ballistics is that damage you do with them stays. Let's say you attack a target with laser cannons, and as soon as its shields are about to fall, it boosts out of range to recharge. All of that damage you did is undone. With ballistics, they're not getting those hulls.
In all the example he's showing, that is, at least in my experience so far, feels less relevant because shields go down pretty quickly. But, like the light fighter dogfighting, like a couple shots, bang, their shields are down again. It does matter, though, because those couple shots would have been damage to hull, right? Do shields stop ballistics at all? We just mentioned it. Could be up to 30%.
and component hit points back unless they leave the field to repair. This doesn't always offer a clear benefit. In some engagements, the pilot with energy weapons is going to both strip the shields and do plenty of damage or destroy the target, but it's still something to consider. As I mentioned earlier, it may be easier when first starting to use the same weapon type on your whole ship, but some tests are suggesting that mixing and matching different weapon types will actually give you better overall damage output, and this makes sense. If you have fewer energy weapons on your ship, the remaining capacitor power goes to them and allows them to fire longer. Combine this with ballistics
Yeah, and he's going to say, well, here, let me
firing
finish.
at the same time with their minimal cooldown, and you're getting longer, more sustained total damage on your target, with some of it happening before the shields even go down.
Right? And like for really good players, I don't know what this is like because I'm not one of those players. But for players who are pretty inaccurate and struggle, when you're on target, it is so frustrating to be on target, see the green pip, and not have any bullets left in your capacitor. It is like, oh, I would have had them. But you know, the energy management is incredibly difficult. If you can remove a bit of that and give yourself, when you're on target, the ability to do more damage, it's got to be more effective for players like me, where I think super accurate players, where they're hitting more of their shots, maybe it's less relevant. But for me, it's so
But this
frustrating.
is also a good time to remember not to get mired too deeply in theoretical debates about damage. It's a good start, but things that we determine on the whiteboard only survive until we encounter the next really good pilot who makes something totally unexpected work magic.
True.
Data is beautiful, but you are the variable in between. Get out in the world, try things, record the results, then come back and let me know in the comments what you found works for you. As promised, we'll take a brief look at the special weapon categories as well. Many of these come with specific ships and may or may not be removable to use on other ships. We'll start with the most obvious, the size 7 monsters on the Ion and Inferno variants of the Crusader Ares. The Inferno's SF-7B is actually in a pretty good place as ballistic Gatlings go. Per bullet, it has
Got
more
a lot
than
of
double
ammo.
the damage of an 85B, has better heat management, and shares the tightest accuracy spread among Gatlings. The Ion's SF-7E cannon wasn't quite as lucky, but has its place if you're going for very big, very slow prey. It's finally been shoehorned into its advertised anti-big ship role by a charged fire mechanic. Pressing the trigger will begin charging and releasing.
Here, since some of you guys are coming in midway, and this is a creator we've never watched before, this is a link to the video. His name is University of Stanton. What a great name. And this is his guide to ship weapons, and apparently this is his first ever video. His voice sounds familiar though, so he might have like made a new YouTube channel or changed the name or something.
It will fire up to a maximum of 6,000 damage. The weakness is that you can't hold it at max and release at will. When it hits
But his
max,
game
the
knowledge
shot
is
is going ready or not. I feel like
strong.
they could have taken a page out of Descent or Overload's book here and given you at least a brief window to hold the charge and build heat in order to get the best shot possible. Rocket pods do not look promising at present. They travel at the slowest projectile speed of 700 meters a second, so hitting with them will be difficult. They only do 150 damage, and you only have a small number of shots before they're empty. They do have an explosion
Mustang
radius of
Delta.
4 meters, which is on par with some smaller missiles, but it's unlikely that that low of damage will affect components very much. It seems like these weapons simply didn't get a real consideration in the balance pass. The sledge mass drivers are a type of ballistic cannon with a very high alpha damage and projectile speed, 3,000 meters a second, but limited range, 1050 to 1,500 meters across the
These were meta in the PTU. Did they nerf them? They were meta, and then the FLs became meta
size when
for a little
in
bit.
range. They also require the skill check of holding the trigger down to charge before the weapon fires, requiring the shooter to be precisely on target at the instant it goes off. There's an argument for using these as turret
Ah, that's right. It was the charge mechanic.
weapons on stable platform ships, as their projectile speed will make it much easier to land hits on moving targets, but the ammo count of 70 makes them an extremely weak prospect for anything other than a single hit-and-run attack. However, Singe or Tachyon cannons are a Banu weapon that behave just like the sledge mass drivers, with the charge-up skill check and killer 3,000 meters a second projectile speed, only their energy. They don't run out of ammo, and they don't suffer from shield and ballistic damage reduction, but they also hit through shields like ballistics. While it would be crazy difficult to use these as a single pilot weapon, there is a strong argument for stripping the size 3 Singe cannons from the Banu Defender to use on other ship turrets. Someone with solid FPS aim in a turret can land absolutely devastating hits on targets within 1500 meters with very minimal lead.
I think the issue is nobody has solid FPS team. Like, there's something messed up with turrets at the moment where it's very difficult to aim, but maybe weapons like this change that.
In testing, we were routinely blowing wings off the Gladius straight through its shields.
Okay.
The Vanguard nose guns are size 2, and you can equip 4 of them on your favorite Vanguard model in any combination you wish. Like all size 2s, they have a range of 2300 meters, but the lasers have a speed of 1000, ballistics 1200, and distortions 1300 meters a second. Individually, they tend to be roughly on par with their other size 2 counterparts, but they vary in special ways that probably deserves its own video. The plasma cannons are a Vanduul energy weapon. The size 3 Warlord and 5 Wrath trade a little of their effective range, which is hardly a factor, for extremely good energy efficiency and a higher alpha damage than you can get for their projectile speed of 14.
This is what I've been for me dominating Arena Commander in. These are the weapons I've been using.
100 meters a second. While the size 2 whip appears to just be a carbon copy of the M4A. However, the size 1 Weak and size 2 Wasp are cracked. These so-called laser cannons have a higher damage, higher refire, and the same 1800 meters a second speed as the light strike line, along with an almost 2-to-1 energy efficiency. The apparent trade-off of these is that they are bespoke and fixed mounted to the Vanduul ships, which means no option to gimbal, but most people are going to be running fixed anyway. Watch out for the Vanduul ships this patch.
They're scary.
Distortions are in an interesting place once again, although
the blade does not work. The glaive does. So the blade does not work because there's 2 weapons and they're fixed, and the pips, you remember how we said the pips should be closer together? Makes it easier. They're literally this far apart. There's something broken with the blade. They're so far apart, you choose one or the other. You can't hit both, and they don't gimbal or anything at all. So when he mentions that gimbal, essentially the blade is worthless. The glaive does not have that issue. The glaive does not have the same issue that the blade does, so keep that in mind. The glaive has the power of those weapons, but the blade, but without the issues that the blade has of inaccuracy. And I also think that it falls in some sort of a I don't have a size, so I don't know. But it falls somewhere in the category, it is not a light fighter. So it has more health. I guess somebody would need to look at Urkel like that versus a Gladius, Arrow, or Buccaneer. Those are the ships you'd likely go against, as well as the Hornets. I was killing Hornet MK2s, which are considered the meta ships in the patch. The pilots were not very good. I'll tell you that. It was pretty obvious they were, kind of learning the game. But those are meta ships, and they were going down pretty easily. So I think I have a little bit more health on the glaive than I was expecting as well, because the buck was just popping. I was dying really quickly with it, and then I just started using random ships, and I popped into the glaive, and wow, yeah, it was a big difference.
It is technically possible to shut down a target with sustained fire, which will shut it off for its power plant's full restart time, usually 5 minutes or more. They do almost no damage against shields, so it becomes a question of whether you want to sacrifice your main DPS for distortions to use when you get shields down. Both the cannons and repeaters have the same projectile speed of 1300 meters a second. Cannons have a 1-to-1 energy efficiency, but repeaters cost almost 2 energy to 1 damage, so cannons will objectively be the way to go here.
Yeah.
Scatters.
Also, if you're running distortions now, you are like a unique. You're just like a support ship for a group. You're not really running them solo like you used to.
As they always have been, are weird. If for some reason you were building a ship for the role of parking at point blank next to a large, impossible to miss target and doing nothing but laying into it, sure, the damage numbers are technically there, but don't
So this is the only thing that I'm not sure he's super accurate on. Scatterguns in the right player's hands are scary.
Expect it to be a mainline weapon. For almost everyone, combat range and time on pip are simply too unpredictable for the massive spread these have. Now, some usefulness this has seen before and will continue to see is for piracy, because the ballistic scatters are extremely handy for quickly blasting open a cargo ramp even through shields. So if you have a particular creative solution to a situation, give them a look. 3.23 has certainly shaken things up and cut our work out for us. We have a whole new weapon set with new properties.
Yeah, go into Arena Commander and see the good players that are like doing this and being hard to hit, but they are always on target. You get killed mega fast. They're strong. I think they're stronger than he's leading them to be.
Some of which we may not have even discovered yet. And there's lots of room for feedback, which I encourage you to leave on Spectrum and on Issue Council.
This video is awesome.
If you found this helpful, join
amazing.
the University of Stanton community, where veteran players are happy to help you find your way in this amazing game. Links are in the description below. Thanks for watching. Class
Very
dismissed.
Cool. I'll link it again. I will probably never watch another video from him on this channel again, because I don't know the guy. And everybody I interact with, I ask if it's okay if I react to their videos. Some people say no, some people say yes. In this case, I think that this is just a great opportunity to highlight a channel that has 1,000 subscribers and deserves 10,000, like tomorrow, right? And I'll leave it there. I think people don't benefit from creators watching their videos over and over again unless they want them to. So it eventually, there's diminishing returns. And I without interacting with him or talking to him, I won't watch any of the videos again with you guys. I'll watch them on my own. But they're obviously very, very valuable so far. So really cool. And yeah, anytime he comes out with a video, I'll shoot the link to you guys in chat. But unless he's okay with it, I won't watch another one, because I don't think that's right. But I think it's certainly right to highlight a bright light in the community, that's for sure. So that's what this video is all about. And get subscribed to the man, because he knows his stuff clearly, right? I think I added a bit of context to it, because I'm kind of going through the learning the game from a master mode standpoint right now, PvP wise, and I've had some differing experiences to what he said, but the overall message is really good and quality, and those are the kind of guides I think we need in this community, and we're sort of been missing that, you know. We'll have to see.